everybody, so this week I've got the key to the 2025 Mazda CX-50 Hybrid. The CX-50 is the slightly sportier and a bit more upscale compact crossover that competes with the Toyota RAV4 and the Honda CR-V. And with this hybrid, Mazda finally has a more efficient option in this category. So I get to drive this fuel-sipping SUV around for a week to see what it's like. So we'll take a close look at the features, the interior, the fuel economy, performance, and find out what it's like to live with as a daily driver. There are a ton of trim levels when it comes to the CX-50. There's 4 2.5 liter trims, 3 turbo trims, and 3 hybrid trims. Hybrids start at just under 34 grand, and this is the top hybrid trim, the Premium Plus, coming in at over 41,000. Now, I've driven a few CX-50s now. I previously reviewed the CX-50 Turbo Meridian Edition, which is Mazda's powerful off-road themed version of this small SUV, and I really enjoyed my time with it. Mazdas do have a reputation of being fun to drive, and that Turbo CX-50 certainly met that criteria. It even performed reasonably well in my off-road test. But we all know that most people don't take their SUVs on treacherous terrain. Most buyers use them for boring stuff like commuting, grocery shopping, spending time on the freeway, waiting in school drop-off lines, you know, the totally thrilling stuff. So I'm wondering, does having the more sporty nature of a Mazda really matter in the real world? I'd like to find out if the hybrid is the best option in the CX-50 lineup. Non-hybrid CX-50s aren't particularly efficient. And this hybrid actually borrows its powertrain from Toyota, and it's rated at 38 miles per gallon combined, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this all adds up when we hit the road. All right, before we hop inside to take a look at the cabin, let's do a quick walk around of this exterior design. Now, if you haven't been living under a rock, you've seen the massive shift towards crossovers and SUVs over the last decade or so. And I'm not a huge fan of SUVs and crossovers. I tend to gravitate towards smaller, simpler machines. So yeah, I don't really get all that excited about the design of an SUV. Most small SUVs look nearly the same, at least from the side profile. But I do have to say that this CX-50 looks pretty nice. It still has the essence of those elegant Mazda designs that came before it, but it adds a few muscles and bulges here and there. This Premium Plus gives us 19-inch alloy wheels and some blacked out trim. We've also got some nice touches like heated power side mirrors. And the only design detail that I find a bit weird are these fake vents here in the back. All right, let's check out the interior. So if you've sat in a new Mazda recently, you're likely aware that the interior quality, design, and materials are just a slight step up above the competition. I also really like the fact that it's a pretty simple, sort of minimal design in here. Got some nice stitching up here on the dashboard. You'll notice that it doesn't have a gigantic screen. We'll talk about that in a second. Really nice looking and feeling steering wheel with not a ton of buttons on it. Door panels also look nice. I like the aluminum trim everywhere. The only thing I don't really like about the design is the gloss black down here. It tracks a lot of dust and scratches. Other than that, a really lovely place to be. Now with this Premium Plus, we've got power seats on the driver's side and the passenger side. Lots of adjustment here. Really easy to get comfortable. They are quite comfortable seats. They are heated and ventilated on this trim. I'm 6'3". I have plenty of legroom. Even with this panoramic sunroof, I've got a decent amount of headroom too. Space from side to side is actually pretty decent as well. I feel like it's actually more than the CX-90, but I could be wrong. Behind this steering wheel, we have a very nice simple set of gauges, analog gauges on the left and the right, and the center is actually a digital gauge. You can adjust the settings here to display some different things. Certainly not very high tech with a gigantic screen, but I like the fact that it's very easy to read, not too much information going on there. All right, moving on to Mazda's infotainment system right here in the center. Now, this is a system that some people absolutely love and some people don't really like all that much. I don't think there's a whole lot of in between here. The people that don't like it don't like the fact that it's not a touchscreen when you are driving. It is a touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto when you are stopped, but generally this is not really meant for that. The screen's a little bit far away to use as a touchscreen. Now, I happen to love this system because I feel like touchscreens are often distracting, and Mazda feels that way too. That's why they have this rotary dial down here to select all of your functions. Now, this system isn't the most modern. If you've driven a Mazda from the last several years, it looks pretty similar, but I like the fact that it's very simple to use. You kind of do get a muscle memory using this rotary dial to select your favorite functions. A lot of the functions you can do without taking your eyes off the road. Now, I understand why some people don't like this. There is an immediate response to just pressing a button, but a lot of times you do have to take your eyes off the road to kind of stare at the screen to see what you're doing. So yeah, I think there's pros and cons to both approaches here, but personally, I really like this. Now here's something else in this Mazda that I absolutely love is this climate control system. No stupid screens, nothing that I have to stare at, just simple buttons, simple dials. I can operate it without taking my eyes off the road. This is the way right here. I know this doesn't look all that impressive. It's not like a fancy screen, but this is 1,000 times better than having to stare at a screen to adjust your fan speed. All right, moving down to this center console. It is quite wide, but there's a fair amount of storage here. A little rubberized tray back here, some cup holders, a split folding center console with a decent amount of space, and that's where you'll find your USB ports. Phone charging kind of tucked right under here. Here's where your volume knob is for your stereo. A couple different drive modes. You've got power, normal, and trail. Very straightforward and traditional gear lever. There is a sport mode over here, which I don't know if you'd ever use in this vehicle, but it's there. Now, when you're in reverse, you'll notice that there's just a regular backup camera here, which is decent quality, but it does not give you a 360 camera, even on this top trim hybrid. You do get it with the top trim turbo, so it seems like they should add it here. Generally speaking, I feel like this is a very nice place to spend time. It's very comfortable. I'd say one downside for me is that the belt line seems extremely high. That's basically kind of where this window lines up to your position in the car. Just seems very high relative to where I'm sitting. Kind of the same for the dashboard. The dashboard feels pretty high. The windshield feels very narrow. Now, this is something that I've experienced in other Mazdas. The CX-90 was this way. Again, it's not a huge downside. I just tend to prefer a more open and more airy feel when I'm sitting in the car. It makes the visibility out the sides, the front, and the back a little bit easier. All right, let's check out the back seat. All right, so I have my front seat set for myself at 6'3", and I actually fit back here quite well. You know, I'm kind of right up against the edge of the seat in terms of leg room, but hip room is decent. Headroom is okay. I'm not hitting my head on the ceiling, which I have done in other small SUVs. You quickly see that they kind of skimped out on the materials in the back seat, kind of scratchy plastics on the door. The seat's not like super comfortable, but it's not bad either. Now, the funny thing is that this vehicle has slightly less legroom in the back compared to the non-hybrid CX-50s. And when I had my family sitting back here, I had two grandmas and a kid sitting in the back here, and this was one of the vehicles that they didn't complain that much about. And I feel like maybe the hip room in this car is slightly better. It's maybe just a little bit wider than some of the other small SUVs that I've ridden in. We do have vents back here, a couple USB-C ports, armrests and cup holders. Do these seats recline? No, these seats do not recline. This is a fixed position back seat. Got some nice light coming in from the panoramic sunroof. It's not bad back here. All right, so in terms of cargo space, 29.2 cubic feet behind the rear seats, and that's just a touch less than the non-hybrid, which is 31.4. Though when the seats are folded, it's the same as the non-hybrid version. You pull these levers right here to fold those seats down. You might have to move those front seats up a little bit to get those seats to fold down all the way. So now you've got 56.3 cubic feet with those seats folded down. And look under here, an actual spare tire. That's becoming more rare nowadays. All right, let's stop yapping about cargo space. Let's go drive this thing. All right, so we're in the 2025 Mazda CX-50 Hybrid Premium Plus, heading out to do the type of driving that most people do on a daily basis. Kind of boring stuff like running errands. Probably load up the back with a bunch of stuff, see how much stuff I can fit back there. So what is this thing like? So let's start with the powertrain. As I mentioned, we've got a Toyota heart beating under the hood of this Mazda. Now, Mazda isn't a huge company, so it's possible they didn't have the funds to develop their own hybrid powertrain that could fit in this CX-50. So it's lifted from Toyota. It's basically the same powertrain found in the RAV4 hybrid. It's a 2.5 liter inline four paired with both front and rear electric motors, with total horsepower coming in at 219, and torque is 160 pound-feet combined. So that's more power than the base CX-50s, but less than the turbos. Now, all of that is paired with every car enthusiast's worst nightmare, a continuously variable transmission. So yeah, CVTs often get a lot of hate because they can provide a droning, anemic driving experience, but they're not all bad. But it is quite obvious that the primary purpose of this CVT in this hybrid is to maximize fuel efficiency. So when you step on it, it's actually a little bit quicker than I would have expected it to be, but it certainly doesn't have the thrust of the turbo models. So it can accelerate from 0 to 60 in about 8 seconds, which isn't going to break any records, but honestly, the electric motors feel decently snappy right off the line. Getting onto the freeway will be fine, but you will probably need to plan ahead a little bit when you're passing anyone on the freeway. I mean, there are so many new vehicles that offer insane acceleration. We're talking like sub 5, sub 4 seconds, 0 to 60 times. And that looks great on a spec sheet. It's great for marketing these vehicles. It probably gets a lot of people excited, but in reality, there are very few places where you can utilize that level of speed on public roads without endangering yourself, others, or getting a lot of speeding tickets. But you know, compared to Mazda engines, this Toyota powertrain doesn't exactly give you the same high level of fun to drive experience that you might expect from a Mazda. You know, there's that added weight of the hybrid powertrain, plus that efficiency-oriented CVT does cut into the fun a fair amount. You know, so for me, I think I just prefer to sit back and relax, enjoy these comfortable seats, and try to maximize my fuel efficiency. And so far, it's looking pretty good. This is rated at 39 city, 37 highway, and 38 combined. Let's see, what am I getting right now? Looks like I'm getting about 36 right now. I have been doing a fair amount of just idling while I've been filming, so I could probably do better than that. So yeah, if we were getting the 38 average, that's certainly nowhere near like Prius efficiency, but it's decent. Now let's get back to what is sort of expected from a Mazda when it comes to driving dynamics and fun factor. I did take this out on a curvy road yesterday, and yeah, it's a bit more fun than a CR-V or a RAV4. So yeah, this is no Miata, but this suspension is tuned for a slightly sportier feel, and it does handle better than the Toyota or the Honda. But I think the main difference between the CX-50 and those other two is the ride quality. The sportier feel of this Mazda results in a ride quality that I find a bit bumpy and bouncy. My parents have a CR-V hybrid, and jumping in that right after driving this, it's pretty clear that the Honda has a slightly smoother ride. But again, the Honda is what you could say a bit more boring to drive, so it just kind of depends on what you value more. One thing that I do really appreciate is that all CX-50s come with all-wheel drive standard. So if you live in an area that often receives inclement weather, unlike here in Southern California where we get like 300 days of sunshine a year, I never have to deal with snow. I don't really need all-wheel drive, but you might. Probably really handy to have in situations where you need a lot of traction. So it's nice that no matter what CX-50 you get, it comes with all-wheel drive. All right, so what does all of this cost you? The CX-50 Hybrid starts at just over 34 grand, and this Hybrid Premium Plus comes to 41,470 after destination charge. The pricing is actually pretty competitive when compared to the RAV4 Hybrid and the CR-V Hybrid. And there are things that I like about all three of these vehicles. The Mazda is the prettiest, the Toyota and Honda have a bit more interior and cargo space. On a windy road, the Mazda is a bit more fun to drive. They're pretty closely matched in terms of fuel economy, with the Toyota coming in first, Mazda in second, followed by the Honda. I'd say that the Mazda has the nicest interior and the Honda has the best ride quality. And there are some other options as well, like the Hyundai Tucson Hybrid and the Kia Sportage Hybrid, which are sort of neck and neck when it comes to features, performance, and efficiency, though a front-wheel drive Sportage does offer quite a few more MPGs. So yeah, hybrid SUVs aren't exactly the most thrilling vehicle to review, but this Mazda did inject a bit of fun into this category. And when it comes down to it, I'm glad that there are more efficient options when it comes to this type of vehicle. So what do you think of the CX-50 Hybrid? Let me know in the comments below. That's gonna be it for today. If you like this video and you wanna see more like it, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. If you'd like to help support the show, please consider buying a shirt or hat at helloroad.tv/shop. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.